What's going on, everybody? My name is Aaron Sirius Simmons, and welcome to the Executive View, the view from on top. I've got a bunch of guys with me. You may know them; they may look familiar. Villain, what's going on, my guy? How we doing this evening, sir?
Super villain in the house, and good to see you. Good to see everybody. What's going on this Wednesday? We good, or actually Thursday? My bad. But
It is Thursday. It is Thursday, man. That's how
I can't.
you a day late. You a day late.
I'm a day late, $1 short. I'm so tired, bro.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I got Chandler in the building. What's going on, Chandler? How we doing this evening, sir?
I'm good, man. A little tired. Been a long day, but I'm good.
Good to see you, sir. Brian Breaking News Hughes, the 49er fan himself, is in the building. What's going on, my guy? How we doing?
What is good, boys? Feeling good. Super Bowl Sunday's right around the corner. Birthday's tomorrow, so I'm hoping for a good birthday present this weekend. So Chandler, look at. I'm hexing you, man. Don't be giving bad juju to my boys. Don't be saying bet the points. Don't be saying anything bad about Brock Purdy. Just let my boys fly under the radar tonight. We need a W, man. I've been to the Super Bowl too many times and not one recently. So let's get this show going, man. Executive View break.
Let's go, man. Let's go, man. Before we get started, I wanted to give props and shout out to all of those for joining us. We are the Executive View. It's a new podcast that we are starting here. Those of you guys, you know, we are from Sports City Chefs. A shout out to Timeless and everything that he represents. We are an extension of that, and what we're going to do is, you know, try to run this show, and maybe later on down the road we'll link back up with Timeless and do, you know, a collaborative effort. But with that being said, we are going to press on and start talking sports. Today was a massive day. In NBA world, we had the trade deadline come and go, and there was a lot of names on the move. Villain, I will start with you first, sir. It seems like my phone was buzzing from the moment go this morning. What trade kind of stuck out to you, or what trade had you scratching your head, wondering what in the world went on?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of trades that I looked at. I think the trade of Pat Bev to the Bucks is definitely what they needed. They just lost when they traded away assets to get Dame Lillard, mainly, you know, their star point guard and Holiday. They lost that defensive edge, right? So I think getting Pat Bev, even though he's not probably the same defender he was, is still a defensive minded player that they probably need, and someone that can guard on the perimeter, because I just don't understand why you have a team with Giannis and you still have a big man down low. You can't defend. You can't play defense. So, and it's probably on the perimeter. So that's where it starts. I think we had kind of briefly talked about it in the kitchen, scratching my head at what the Hornets are doing or what they think they're doing. You know, just another day, right? Just another day for them trading away Hayward. But I'm biased, obviously, but I do like the Knicks, what they did today. I think they needed
huge.
Depth.
That was huge.
It was, because they're still waiting to get Mitchell Robinson back, right? They got Randall, who's hurt. Now they got our star Jalen Brunson, who twisted his ankle a couple of days ago, is not playing tonight. So they needed some depth pieces. I think they needed pieces to round out that bench. They pushed DiVincenzo to the starting lineup. He's scoring at a high clip now, but that's bench scoring is what you missed from him when you made that trade for Anunoby. So now you bring in Alex Burks, who's familiar with the system, was here a couple of years ago for 2 years, and Boyens is 20 points a game, right? In Detroit, you bring that production off the bench. Now you got some depth. And I knew when that trade happened, it was a good trade, but they were going to make the big splash until the offseason, which a lot of people said. But I like what they did. I like their depth. And I also got to say, I just don't know. The Lakers did nothing. And they had nothing to work with. They had nothing to work with. They couldn't trade you anything. Right. The only thing they had was a 2029 first-round pick. That's when LeBron's retired and Anthony Davis is back in street clothes for half the season. So, had no assets.
Yeah, I wanted to actually talk to you about it offline, but you brought it here. I love the Boban move, man. I think that gives you guys a tremendous asset. You know, this guy can get you 25 to 30 a game. We see what he's doing now in Detroit. Now, I will say this as a conjunction to what he's doing in Detroit. When you're in Detroit, ultimately, you get the ball. Nobody's really playing D with you. You know what I'm saying? Like you're in Detroit, so you get a bunch of shots because you got Kate Cunningham, you got a young squad, Monty Williams. I'm not too sure what he's doing over there.
Serious, I think you're muted, buddy.
I don't hear him.
No, his lips are moving. There we go.
There he is. Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Yeah, my microphone got muted. But anyway, I'm not too sure you're gonna get the same amount of points, and the same amount of shots in New York, especially with everybody healthy. But Chandler, I'll come to you, sir. The NBA trade deadline came, and went. A name that's been talked about being on the move for a couple years finally left, and Buddy Hield. He's now in Philadelphia. I love that move. But what say you, sir? Chandler, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, it was me. I like the Buddy Hield move. I've been wanting Buddy Hield off that team for the longest because they wasted him. They were wasting him there. They didn't want to use him there, and the head coach there is a clown. You guys know how I feel about the head coach in Indiana. He's a clown. But the Patrick Beverley trade tells me that the Sixers, number one, they're tampering with Kyle Lowry. Okay? There's tampering going on because they got rid of Patrick Beverley because they know they're going to get Kyle Lowry. So that's tampering right off the rip. But also, I think they don't believe that Joel Embiid is going to be healthy the rest of the way, even if he comes back, which he shouldn't. Okay? But we all know that Joel Embiid come playoff time, and yes, that's my dog in the background. That's Sterling because she has to get some attention.
What's up, Sterling?
What it do, baby?
What happens in the playoffs? Joel Embiid is hurt. He doesn't play well. The Bogdanovich signing is fine. Listen, Alec Burks, you mean the same Alec Burks that swallowed the peach pit against the Atlanta Hawks a couple of years ago in the playoffs? That Alec Burks? See, I ain't forgot that.
Right.
I'm an old Knicks fan, and we hold grudges, okay?
Talk about it.
Okay, I'm old enough to remember when Marvin Webster was the big signing for the Knicks, and his knees immediately disintegrated. When they signed Chuck Robinson, he signed the contract and then grabbed his back, okay? When we signed the ghost of Kiki Vandeweghe and the ghost of Paul Westphal and the ghost of Maurice Lucas. Okay, I'm old enough to remember all of those, so I have a lot of scar tissue when it comes to the Knicks. Tom Thibodeau loves to get his guys, but his guys don't usually come through in the big moments. Like, why is Taj Gibson on this team? You should have got Andre Drummond, and Taj Gibson should be a coach with the developmental side. Okay, but that's one of Tibbs' guys. Okay, how's that worked out for Tibbs? Okay, he broke the Chicago Bulls. Okay, literally broke them, ran them into the ground. He's running these guys into the ground. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's getting hurt. Brunson's hurt again. Randall's hurt. Mitchell Robinson's always hurt. But
he stay hurt.
OG Anunoby's hurt. So, but, it's on paper, it's a good trade for the Knicks. It gives them depth if everybody comes back healthy. But I personally don't believe everybody's going to be healthy just because of the way Tom Thibodeau uses guys. I mean, look at when Brunson got hurt the first time with his ankle. It was in garbage time of a game they were ahead by like 15 points. Why was he on the floor?
Yeah.
But that's what Thibodeau does. The Charlotte Hornets are trash. Okay? The Charlotte Hornets are trash. That team needs to be taken away from ownership and given to somebody else in a whole other state. Because all they do is accumulate talent, trade it away, and say, we're starting to rebuild. This is the 7th rebuild in 3 years. It's the 7th rebuild in 3 years. Right? And then Miles Bridges, what the hell is wrong with you? I don't want to leave Charlotte. I want to stay in Charlotte. Yeah, so you can get a lot of shots, score a lot of points, make everybody forget about what you did in the offseason. Okay, which I ain't forgot, bro. All right, I ain't forgot. But I mean, and they said, well, because he would lose his bird rights and this and that. Would you rather have a championship and then get the bag, or just get the bag and never be a champion? I'm just asking. just asking. You know, the Chicago Bulls. Hey, Jerry Reinsdorf, bro. It's time somebody takes the team away from you. All right. I understand you 80. I'm thinking there's some dementia going on because they were trying to be buyers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, what? Your team is garbage. Your best player is Kobe White.
Mm-hmm.
Your best player. Because Zach LaVine, even when he was healthy, is not a franchise player. He's not a winning player. Alex Caruso is a winning player who's wasted there. DeMar DeRozan is a statue at this point. All he could do is make 2-pointers because he can't jump high enough to make a 3. I mean, this was the weirdest trade deadline in a while because you had some teams like the Lakers, like the Bulls, like the Hawks, who I don't know what they're smoking, but it's some good stuff. Okay, it's some really good stuff. All right, because the Atlanta Hawks dude, trade DeJounte Murray. Why wait till the offseason?
Yeah, that was a mistake. That
was a huge mistake.
Oh. And the Lakers, at some point, y'all gonna have to get off this LeBron train. Okay,
he's gonna do it for them.
And LeBron,
he's gonna do it for him. Yeah,
that's aggressive nonsense. Oh, I'm gonna wear a Nick towel and I'm gonna tweet out this emoji. Listen, bro, you 39 years old. You can't carry nothing. All right, you can't carry nothing right now, but that wacko beard that you keep dyeing gray with the what's the hair club for men nonsense. All right. You want this team to mortgage the next 7 years so that you can get a chance at one more ring? Man, miss me with this. This was a weird trade deadline.
You think the Bulls made a mistake, serious, by hanging on to Caruso and DeRozan, just like in Murray, staying with the Hawks?
I think the Bulls made a tremendous mistake not moving somebody. Caruso, Kobe White, hell, even Zach LaVine are not franchise type guys. And so I thought that either one of those guys would have been moved for a different piece to do something. So I was shocked they didn't move on for them. Again, the Hornets and Mikal Bridges, I don't know. Like he's one of the few people that has that no trade clause that he has to waive. And again, Chandler hit the nail on the head. You much rather sit there in Charlotte and be in the lottery every year than get yourself on a contending team that gives you the ability to potentially go for a championship. Breaking news, I'll come to you, sir. I'm not too sure if you caught any of the trade deadline stuff while you're out there on your West Coast. But talk to me, man. How do you feel about how the trade deadline shook out? Chandler said it was a weird deadline. I happen to agree with him, man. How do you feel?
I do think it was a weird deadline. And listen, self-proclaimed, basketball is probably the third sport I watch the most. So I would defer to you guys on a lot of this stuff. But here's what I would say. When you look at the records of the teams and you look at how they're playing, I can't help but think the fact that there are so many mediocre teams might have played into this. And I say that because just to look at, for example, a team that you guys just mentioned, like Chicago, like why do they not trade anyone? Well, okay, so let's look at Chicago. They're on the fringe of the playoffs. You have teams like Miami and the 76ers are both reeling right now. And they're probably looking at this like let's keep it real. How many more years are they going to be able to keep their playoff window open? Right? Mm-hmm. So if they have an opportunity to potentially make the playoffs because you have other teams reeling, that to me, the fact that we don't see those dominant teams. I mean, listen, there's no, and I'm going to mess up the year. I apologize, but I want to say there's no 1984-85 Bulls team, right? There's no, you don't see 10 lost teams anymore. You see a lot of mediocrity. What I like from the trade deadline, listen, you guys talked about Bogdanovic. I know I butchered that name. I believe. How do you pronounce it?
Bogdanovic, right?
Thank you.
I'll call him Bobo.
There you go,
Yeah,
Bobo. I am
Bobo.
so bad with the four names, but here's what I was going to say. I think that was a stellar move, and I say that because with them not knowing how long Randall's going to be out, you got to have a second scorer. You got to have somebody that you can rely on to be able to put the bucket in the hoop. And there is not a lot of sure things. And I mean, as Chandler just alluded to with Burt, like that guy alone's probably not going to move the needle in New York. So that was a huge pickup. I also really like the Bucks pickup of Beverly, which you guys mentioned, like reuniting with Doc Rivers. Doc knows how to use him. Doc is, I think Doc is a hell of a coach. And, I know the whole, never got over the hump, this and that. Listen, I get all that. I'm not going to here nor there. But here's what I'll tell you guys. Right now, they're a top 3 team. I think Patrick Beverly makes them a lot better because he's a premier, maybe starting to decline a little bit, but he's still a premier pesky perimeter defender. And he's still a guy that is going to annoy your best shooters, right? And there's a lot of good shooters in the East. So I think it's a heck of a pickup for the Bucks. And you know what? I was going to avoid it, but since it got brought up, yeah, listen, you know what? The Lakers had me scratching my head, but at the same time, I think Chandler might have said it. Like, listen, next year, the offseason or whatever, they're going to have 3 first-round picks. They're probably going to trade all their assets to try and bring in another superstar. It just seems to be the LA way. Listen, I'm not a fan of rebuilding, but at the same time, like at some point, and I know this is blasphemy to a Lakers fan, at some point we may need to look at this and go, hey, you know what? Maybe Russell Westbrook wasn't all the problem. Hey, maybe 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 Anthony Davis and LeBron James, like that duo just doesn't seem to work as well as we originally thought, right? Because I think they actually have some pieces. They have some shooters, but if you watch the games, they don't move the balls like the top teams do. They don't play defense. Well, let me rephrase that. Not all the guys on the court play defense the way the top teams do. And so with that being said, you could say it's a coaching thing. You could say that it's a players feeling like they deserve special treatment. I think it's a culture thing. I'm going to go with a culture thing, but I think if you think of all the greats that have went through there, like Magic, Kobe, Wilt, Kareem, like James Worthy, like all these guys were like max effort guys. None of these guys would be proud of the team that the Lakers are putting on the court right now. Let's keep it 100. And it has nothing to do with talent. It has everything to do with effort.
Yeah, I don't see the mix. Seriously, I think you give LeBron the ball, he pounds it and kind of makes plays for other guys, but other guys are standing around waiting for him to do the work, and it's like it's a weird mix to watch that. And one thing I did want to bring up, and then we can move whatever you want to do. The Mavericks look desperate. I didn't like their trades. They're just trying to do whatever they can to get Luka not to leave. If it seems like he's about to enter restricted free agency land, and it's like. I just don't like them. I don't know. They're not building the right team around him. And I don't know what the right team is around him either.
Let me ask you guys a question though that I posed when you first talked to me, Sirius. How much of these trades though do you feel like where we said there wasn't a lot of productive trades, there wasn't a lot of big trades. How much of the trading do you feel like was impacted by the fact that there's just really not a lot of separation between, let's say, Team 12 and Team 4? Like, if you look at it just seems like a lot of mediocrity to me. Like you could take Team 4, you could take Team 8, and if you told me Team 8 was going to win the series, I wouldn't be shocked.
But if that's why you're not building your team properly and you're not managing your assets properly, you should be fired.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, Chandler. What I'm referring to is these trades. No, I'm referring specifically to the trades. Like why, like some of these trades when you're like he mentioned, like why would the Mavericks make the trades they made? Why would the 76ers move on especially considering where they're at right now in the pecking order. And I know you've already alluded to this, Chandler, but some of these trades kind of made me think like, man, it just seems like there's more going on than meets the eye.
Well, Dallas needed size because they're getting killed in rebounding. They brought in two guys who are rebounders. That is actually a good trade. Okay.
For PJ Washington.
Right. PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Gafford is a guy, he has a nose for the ball. He's been on losing teams, so people don't understand how much this kid can rebound and impact the game, also defensively. But what I'm saying when you talk about the mediocrity, so basically some of these teams think, well, if we just stay pat, and because the league is so weak right now, maybe we can catch lightning in a bottle. If that's the reason you didn't either commit fully to the rebuild or commit fully to really improving your team, then you should be fired. Because basically you're
coming for everybody's job.
Yeah, he come for everybody.
Maybe the new pair of shoes. Come on.
Listen, he's not wrong.
I think the Celtics got better by doing nothing.
Right, but we also, I think you're right, but we also know that you might have a 4 or 5 year contract, but we see plenty of coaches get fired after 2 or 3. So, I mean, it's hard because on one hand, I get what you guys are saying. The front office is really the ones that have to be resolute in what the vision and the goal is. Because if I'm the coach, I'm trying to win at all costs. I mean, I don't care if you give me the 2 kids, the 2 blind kids, and one of them don't have a hand. It's my job to coach them up to do the best job they can. And if you say, hey, all of a sudden now I can have Sirius, I probably still take them, but I might consider him. You know what I mean?
Sirius can fill out the bench.
Hold on one second. I got Mike in the building, man. Mike's knocking at the door to get in here. Mike, welcome to the Executive View, man. Talking NBA trade deadline. You heard what was going on, man. What say you, sir? Mike, if you're talking, you're on mute. Let me get him off mute. Mike.
We need some elevator music for these situations.
Right. You see how he tried to bring in Mike real quick?
Right. He's like, as soon as I made the comment about the 2 blind kids, he was like, okay, here we go. Trying to set me up.
Because he'd be holding up the bench on any AAU team.
Right.
What you guys didn't realize, Mike's been here since the beginning of the show. He just had him queued up, ready to go.
I had him ready to rock and roll. Hey, Mike, are we still having technical difficulty with you?
Yeah, we'll come back. Let's come back to Mike in a minute. But I mean,
we'll come back.
I honestly don't know what the Lakers can do in the offseason. I think they're a prime candidate for the buyout market. I think you're going to see PJ Tucker get bought out. I'm pretty sure Corey. I don't think Corey Joseph is a big player. Dinwiddie's going to be.
Spencer Dinwiddie's getting bought out.
Yeah. The real problem is, guys, is you can't go all in every year. And that's what the Lakers have tried to do it doesn't matter. They literally could be in 10th position or first position. They're going to try and go all in every year. Every year, they're wasting assets, and that's what I'm going to call them, because if you look at some of these young guys, even guys like Mo Wagner that people are like, he's nothing. Like, they waste assets, right, to get middling players to just try to play around LeBron and Anthony Davis. Like, really, we have a 2-man team. We just need 3 other guys to wear the uniform and stand on the court. Like, that's what it feels like the mindset is of the Lakers organization.
Right.
But see, if you look at how they did last year, nothing else has changed. Like, they got a couple of pieces, and then they made themselves to the Western Conference Finals. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is this a situation where the Lakers are laying back and playing possum? They got some guys that are injured that are going to work themselves back to us. I don't care if he's 39 or 49. As long as LeBron James is playing at this type of a level, I'm going to give him a shot to do something in the playoffs or make a run or do something. Now,
in the 7-game series, I'll give him a shot. But you're talking about a team that can't shoot the 3 and doesn't defend.
Well, and I think the other thing,
travel.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you have to consider is last year when that happened, like you got to think these younger teams, Minnesota, Detroit, which Denver, Phoenix, all these teams are getting a little older, a little more experienced, a little bit better. Like I think Phoenix is a lot better this year than they were last year. I think some of these teams, like I don't think the Lakers, I think there's question on whether or not they even make the playoffs. Like I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for them to walk in. And don't forget, not big name guys, but they did make trade deadline moves and brought in Derek. They brought in Russell. They brought in some other cats to help bolster the shooting. Right now, what they really lack, they brought him in because they needed a point guard. I hate to say, guys, I feel like they still have the same problem. They still don't have a facilitator of the ball. LeBron James always has to be the facilitator. And really, if you wanted this offense to work the way it needs to, you need a guy like Chris Paul that's unselfish, that doesn't need to take 20 shots a game, that can facilitate. You want to have these two big guys there. That's what you need.
Off the ball.
You mean the
LeBron
Chris Paul
can't play off the ball right now. Sorry.
Yeah, I understand. Listen, I totally get what you're saying, Chandler. What I'm saying is that type of player, though. Somebody that doesn't need 20 shots a game.
His name was DeJounte Murray, and they didn't want to give up Austin Reeves. Now, listen, I get Austin Reeves every 15 games has an amazing game.
Yeah.
But DeJounte Murray would give you consistency for 15 games and have an amazing game.
He's much more talented than
they are
Reeves.
Overvaluing mediocrity. Listen, and can we please tell them LeBron James playing at this level? LeBron James, for a 39-year-old, is playing great. Okay, he's playing great enough for his team to be at the edge of the playoff hunt. That's it. He's not carrying anybody anywhere, and Anthony Davis certainly isn't. So again, if you had given some of these younger players an actual time to develop and told LeBron, listen, bro, okay, you can't carry us anymore. So we're gonna need these guys to grow up and learn. And you're gonna have to stop wanting other veterans and actually pass down some knowledge to people on your own team instead of everybody else in the league. LeBron mentors everybody but the players on his own damn team.
Yeah. True statement. I'm gonna try to go back to Mike and see if Mike is having technical difficulties still. Mike, what's going on, man? How we doing today?
Still on mute, so
he's still on mute. Let me see if I can unmute him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Try.
Yeah. We are still having some technical difficulties with Mike, so we're gonna put him back in the queue and see if he can get back to us. Moving on. We mentioned the Los Angeles Lakers, so I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the unveiling of the statue. I am not a fan. I am not a fan of the statue. I felt as though they can do something a little different. Villain, I'll bring it to you, sir. I'm not sure if you saw it. But bro, talk to me, man. That thing looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it would be a different. I mean, I'm glad he got a statue. I know people want to say what they want to say about him, to love him or hate him, if he's top 3 or he's barely in the top 10, whatever you think about Kobe Bryant. He was a tremendous player, and for him to lose his life with his daughter was a terrible tragedy. I feel like there's other poses that they could have used for Kobe. The one that always stands out to me is the one where he rips like his jersey over and you see his, he's holding out his chest. That's the one I would have used. But and then there's a reverse dunk or layup that he used to do. So I just feel like there's a better image, but I like the fact that they did it on 2/8/24. Those numbers are kind of tie in to what they had going on. So I just wish they were a better post, but respect to the man.
I like the fadeaway. I would have went with the fadeaway or something like that.
Because I've been to Chicago. Have you've been to Chicago series? Like the Jordan statue? It's that statue is like mind blowing when I first saw it.
It's iconic Jordan, yeah.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So the way they unveiled that there, I wasn't a fan of it. Brian, I know you saw it, but what did you think about the statue?
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because if we go strictly based off of what we're told, supposedly Kobe had a say in picking the statue. Like, I don't know how much you guys read, but like I actually read about this the story, and I saw it because it's on the local news here that he had a hand in it, and he picked this. For me, listen, I love the fadeaway shot. I love everything you guys said, but for me, the most iconic Kobe Bryant, Jordan is the tongue. Kobe is the biting the jersey. Like, for me, that's the iconic one for me. Like, that's when I know, okay, he's kind of getting in the zone. He gets the jersey, and it would have been nice, but ultimately, I mean, the man won 4 championships. Like, he absolutely deserves to be honored, to be recognized. He was with the Lakers organization, I believe, 21 years. I don't have any of the facts in front of me, but I mean, think about that. Think about how many players, especially in the modern era. We're not talking Bill Russell. We're not talking Wilt, even though he was traded. How many players in this century, how many players that played in the 2000s played 20 plus years for one organization? I'll bet you that list is awfully small. So with that being said, I'm really happy for Kobe that he was memorialized. I think he did a lot for Lakers Nation. I think he did a lot for for the fans, and I've seen a lot of memorable things that I will literally never forget. Just a quick Kobe, as you guys know, story. When he hurt his ankle and literally his teammates had to carry him to the foul line so he could take those shots. Like, you just don't see guys like that nowadays. Or his farewell game. We're talking about a guy nearing the edge of his retirement, in the twilight of his career, dropping 60 plus. Like, he was just literally one of those guys that if you got under his skin, he dropped 60 on you in a heartbeat. And one of the best just all-around shooters I've ever witnessed. There might have been more talented guys. I don't know if there's a better, more well-rounded shooter like Curry, got game, props to him. But for me, Kobe is literally the epitome of, one of the 2 or 3 greatest basketball players I've ever seen.
Right. I feel you, man. It's going to be interesting to see how that thing pans out. With trying to get, everybody has an opinion on the Kobe Bryant statue. I, for one, I'm not a fan of it. And like we all alluded to here, like the biting of the jersey, the fadeaway, Villain's whole, pulling of the jersey with the chest out when he hit the shot versus the Phoenix Suns with seconds left. I'm just not a fan of the statue they picked. Moving on, wanted to start talking NFL, man. This is Super Bowl week. So I'm gonna spend a couple minutes talking about some NFL coaching moves, and then we're gonna dive right into the Super Bowl preview. The Washington Commanders hired former Dallas Cowboy defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, and then they subsequently kicked Eric Bieniemy to the curb and brought in Cliff Kingsbury. Chandler, I'll go to you first, sir. What did you feel about this move for the Commanders, bringing in Dan Quinn and then Cliff Kingsbury right behind it?
I'm still trying to figure out why Cliff Kingsbury keeps getting jobs. Other than the fact that he dates hot, skinny white women. Okay? Because
I'm
listen, this dude was a mediocre coach in college. He was mediocre at best in college. And he got a head coaching job in the NFL. Had one good season, then everybody figured him out. He couldn't adjust. Okay, then he was gone, and now he's back as an offense coordinator because they want to get Caleb Williams. But he was Caleb Williams' coach at one point, wasn't he? And then Caleb Williams followed Lincoln Riley somewhere. He didn't follow Cliff Kingsbury. He followed Lincoln Riley. Okay? So what has Cliff Kingsbury done to deserve multiple bites at an apple? What's he done? He's got a cool house, got a hot girlfriend. Okay. What else you got, bro? What else you got? And Dan Quinn is a great defensive coordinator. Well, actually, he's not a great defensive coordinator because the Dallas Cowboys couldn't stop the run. See, if we're going to hold Arthur Smith as a head coach against it being the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator, how are we not holding Dan Quinn's inability to stop the run against him as a coordinator? But let's give him a job in Washington with a defense that they depleted trading away because Ron Rivera was – listen, I can't stand Ron Rivera. I don't give a damn if he had cancer. I'm sorry you had cancer. I'm glad you got over it, but he's a clown. And he's not a good coach. He had 3 winning seasons with prime Cam Newton. 3. He's had more losing seasons than winning seasons. So stop telling me Ron Rivera's a good coach, first of all. Then you bring in Dan Quinn. You need to your defense needs work. Your offense needs work. I'm sorry. So let's bring in Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn. They will be gone in 2.5 seasons. They will be gone
2.5 seasons.
2.5 seasons. By the middle of the 3rd season, they will be gone. Okay, Dan Quinn shouldn't have got that job. He's a coordinator. He's not a head coach. Cliff Kingsbury shouldn't even be in the NFL. Okay, and this isn't about. Yeah, actually, it is about the fact that. Oh, by the way, Eric Bieniemy just went and talked to the Kansas City Chiefs players, and look how well they played in that game against the Ravens. Were any receivers dropping balls in that game? Oh no, they weren't. No, they weren't. Oh, that's right. Because Eric Bieniemy, he's so tough on the players, and they ain't like us. He was tough on them. So let's go get Dan Quinn, who everybody loves. Okay, let's see how that works out for you, Washington. It's a terrible hire across the board. Let's see how that works out for you.
Right. We got Mike in the building, man. Mike, what's going on, man? How we doing this evening?
Yeah, so for a blind person, this StreamYard app sucks. It doesn't read the buttons for me. So I had to go out and completely delete the app and reopen in the web browser. And fuck you about your comment about 2 blind people and 1 with no hands, because I guarantee you one thing. There are some blind people that are some very good athletes and can kick your ass on a wrestling mat, a track, and in multiple different arenas.
Mike, you're right. Did you hear the whole comment?
No, hold on. I ain't done. I've been listening for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever. So I've been listening to a lot. And I've been hearing you come in with a lot of talk on my Lakers team where you need to worry about your own subpar basketball team in the northern part of the state.
Whose team is mine?
Well, I don't know. I'm just assigning you the Warriors because they're from up there in that area.
Who's your team? Right. Who's your team?
Who's your basketball team? You're a Lakers fan too?
I'm just honest.
No. I'm a Lakers fan too. I disagree with some of what you said, but I do. The very last thing you said about the Lakers, I very much agree with it. But I'm not going to digress and rewrite, go back to a bunch of topics yet.
Thank you, Mike. Let's move forward.
But what I do want to say, however, I do have a little bit to say on that at some point. But this is just another example of how tone deaf this franchise has continued to be. It doesn't matter. You just had a bad owner and whatever else. We've had a lot of things go on. You've heard the name and this and that and this and all that. And some people wanting it not and all this. This organization, though, it's just dumb. I told people after the Cowboys playoff game, this was the football gods reminding you why you should not hire Dan Quinn as a head coach. And this Washington franchise is completely ignoring it. there's he showed you what he does as a head coach. We lost 28-3. I mean, blew a 28-3 game in the Super Bowl, and then when they had one of their best chances to go back to the NFC title game for the first time in a long time, you show up and at that point he's a defensive coordinator. He's a good defensive coordinator. But at that point, come playoffs, you have one job. Your job is to manage your defense and try to get the most out of them, and they didn't at all. So once again, on a stage where it counted, they were unable to show up. The good thing is I don't think that this Commanders team is going to be good enough to really be on a stage where it counts for a little while. And I think that, Chandler, you said 2.5 on these guys staying around. I think that you're probably about right, but it wouldn't surprise me if it actually came out under. You see how long Kingsbury's been around and lasted before. It wouldn't surprise me if it was under, especially if this move flops as bad as it possibly could. We'll see what happens with the quarterback, and how that turns out. But there's still a lot of mediocre. I mean, there's some good teams, but as we have seen in the NFC and in both conferences, really, you can climb in there being a mediocre team and find a way to get into the playoffs. Who knows what might happen? But I just don't think this team's anywhere close to that. And I don't think you didn't hire any of the guys to me that would inspire the confidence that tells me that you can get there. I mean, listen, I don't have a lot of room to talk because my franchise has no clue what the hell they're doing anyway as their head coach. I don't like the offensive coordinator that they're going to hire after the Super Bowl either. I think they should have hired the guy that Chandler was just talking about as their offensive coordinator and really change that whole culture. But they didn't have the brass to do it, so they're going to regret that too.
Yeah. It's interesting, talking about the Commanders and what they're going to end up doing. But the whole Dan Quinn hire feels like the bridesmaid and never the bride. They wanted Johnson from the Lions. Yep. Johnson pulled the okie doke and decided to go back to Detroit. You didn't get the enemy. You didn't give him an opportunity. You didn't get the guy from Baltimore, the defensive coordinator from Baltimore, and so they settled on Dan Quinn.
There's no way he should be hired over Bieniemy.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Bieniemy interviewed for the job, and he can't get looks. And I wanted to pose this to you guys here, before we even get into the offseason and this, that, and the third. What's going on with Bieniemy? Like, I think for me, I mentioned this to a friend of mine, and, I live here in Metro DC, and one of the great radio hosts that I listen to said that he hitched his wagon to the wrong horse. Like, you come to an organization like the Washington Commanders where the team is for sale from the moment you sign your name on your contract. You got a coach who literally is punching outside his weight class, can't coach himself out of a wet paper bag. You got no quarterback. Offensive line is piss poor. Your defense is horrible. And so you leave Kansas City to come out here to hit your wagon to a ship or to a train or to a horse that's ultimately going to fail. And now, when the music stops, when the coaching carousel music stops, he's left without a partner. And honestly, no offensive coordinator jobs are available. So, is he going to go back to college, go to college and try to, do something there? Or is he ever going to get a shot again in the NFL? Brian, I'll come to you, man. Bieniemy is out, out the club trying to get in. He's had several knocks at the door, but, he can't get in the club. What's cracking? What's going on?
So I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, but that I have from the years of doing the show and the different people we've talked to over the years, like I have a few contacts, right, that work in the NFL. And specifically this came up with one of those guys that works as a scout that happened to work in a location that he did. And this is probably the biggest tidbit that I could ever share with the show, because most stuff I don't have anything relevant. But he told me there's 3 main issues with Eric. The first one is in KC, the biggest issue there was how much of the success was attributed to him versus Andy Reid. So a lot of people downplayed his success because of Andy Reid. Like, how much of the development of Patrick Mahomes was really Eric versus how much of the development was really Andy Reid. Now, in any other scenario, we all know the offensive coordinator usually you get that credit, right? Like you don't say like, oh, what if it could have been Kyle, it could have been Kyle Shanahan, but everybody said no. Mike McDaniels is a genius. He gets a job in Miami. So the second thing is I heard is he is very, very much a X's and O's guys, very much an X's and O type guy. He's not one of those guys that does a lot of small talk. So when you start talking with higher ups, you know how it is. They like to be schmoozed. They want to have that 6-hour conversation. I got the feeling like he'd rather have a 3-hour interview than a 6-hour interview, if that makes sense to you guys. And then finally, when they asked kind of like you were talking about, in Washington, to kind of get out and kind of give himself an opportunity to kind of show what he could do, that he didn't really, he never really has, for lack of a better word, develop his network. So because when you get a coaching gig, the first thing they're going to ask you is, okay, if I hire you, who's going to be your offensive coordinator? Who's going to be your defensive coordinator? Who are you thinking about for your special teams coach? Right. And so what I've heard is, and this is just what I've heard, this is all speculative, but what I've heard from somebody that works in the NFL, that worked in the same building as him, is tremendous X's and O's guys. He doesn't pay attention to that stuff. He's so laser focused on what he needs to do that I think a lot of times the impression that maybe the higher ups get is like, can he handle that? That's kind of what I was kind of told. So I just share that info with you because it's one of the few times that I've had some information relevantly that I could share. Now, you guys have already hit on it, and it sucks because I feel the same way as Chandler and Mike, but I can't change my opinion. My opinion is what it is. I don't like the Dan Quinn hiring is probably the least favorite of all of them, all the hiring. And the reason for that is, as we've mentioned, there's not only is there other candidates out there that are, offensive minded coaches that, you're going to have a young, let's be honest, you're bringing in Caleb Williams more than likely, and you're going to want to develop him. You're going to bring in, you've got $70 million, you got the most cap space in the league. Dan Quinn runs a system that is completely different than what Washington's been running, which means they're going to turn over personnel completely. You're going to be talking about a lot of dollars coming in and out this offseason, trying to bring in, quote unquote, like his guys, right? He has a network. He'll be able to bring in coaches, but I couldn't agree more with what Chandler said. What has Kingsbury done in the past that has proved to us that he's going to be an effective offensive coordinator and be able to take this Washington team to new heights, to heights, more than what they were just currently at with Bieniemy as the OC. And what I would say is, I don't have faith in that. He said, 2.5 years. Harvey said, maybe a little less than that. Listen, I think Harvey may have hit the nail on the head with the point that with Dallas in that division, with the Eagles still better than Washington is, even though they have their own problems, I think that they're going to be swelling in mediocrity for a while. So they may last. I'll take the over on the 2.5 years, but not because they're going to deserve it, just because the expectations are so low, to be honest with you. Like, I of all the pairings that we've gotten, to me, this is by far the worst one. And you don't get your prime target, Like, I would have much rather, and I know I'm a huge fan, and maybe not everybody is, I would have much rather have hired Vrabel than Dan Quinn, personally. I think he can relate to the players better. I think, you know, you have all that money, you know, the money available. You know, they have quite a few prime free agents that are available from Tennessee that you could potentially bring over to make this team relevant right away. But they didn't want to do that. So ultimately, we're going to have to see what Kingsbury and Quinn does, because the reality is you're going to be drafting number 1 overall. You got $70 million in cap space. If you mess this up, you're going to put this franchise behind the 8 ball again for another 10 years.
They're drafting second, I think, aren't they?
Second, yeah.
Okay, I apologize. Yeah. So even if it's Derek May, I apologize. Thank you for fixing that for me. But the point being is, you mess this up and you miss on another franchise quarterback, you're literally going to be putting this franchise behind the 8 ball again for another 10 years. Because the reality is they're going to be just good enough to be mediocre. And we all know just good enough to be mediocre is where the Giants are at. Danny Dimes wins 3 or 4 games. Guess what? Now you're drafting 7th. You can't get a franchise quarterback. Nobody wants to be there. I'd rather be in purgatory or the Super Bowl. Nobody wants to be in the middle. You know, you don't get a participation trophy in the NFL.
But there's a lot of them that are in the middle nowadays. And so the interesting part about it is these two teams that are both picking at the top of the draft this year, both have a ton of salary cap. They both have the ability, and they have some young talent, and they have the resources and everything available to them to really rebuild quickly. The problem is, I don't have the faith in either one of the front offices and or the coaching staffs or the person, the people to do it. It seems like an absolute waste of resources. But Redskins even less. But I mean, you know, Redskins and Bears both, who are picking at the top of this draft, they're both going to have a ton of salary cap room. They both have some things to build around, but they could both really do some things right now. If they play it right. But
I like Caleb Williams. Let me just say this. I like Caleb Williams. You know, I'm a USC guy, but I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen some stuff. I've seen some flashes in Justin Fields. I know Chandler's talked about him being traded to Atlanta, which I think would be a huge mistake. I think when you look at super mobile quarterbacks, I think they take a little bit longer, because what happens is, rather than going through the progression, they know they can rely on their legs. So it takes a little bit longer for them to develop. But I'm telling you right now, the Bears would be better this year with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Justin Fields than they will be with Caleb Williams and just more.
I 100% agree. And the beauty of it is, if you're not going to take Caleb Williams, you can move down. Even 1 or 2 picks, you can move down a couple picks. You also got the 9th pick right there, but you can use that first pick.
I wouldn't risk losing Harrison, dude. I could see a team moving up to get him.
I don't think anybody's going to jump up to number 1 to get him. You could switch places with Washington or go to 3 and probably still get him. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure. I mean, Harrison's best receiver in this draft, but I think that the gap between him and Neighbors is much closer than you think. But I believe. I believe that you still take a high pick with this move, even if you just move down 1 or 2 picks. Washington, if they think Caleb Williams is going to come there, I mean, maybe if he says he absolutely wouldn't sign, but you might get a pick or 2 just to flip flop with it.
Caleb Williams hold on, Mike. Caleb Williams has he has no leverage right now.
But neither did Eli Manning, but he didn't go to San Diego.
Yes, but what's Caleb going to do? Threaten to go back to college? He's done.
Yes.
He can go back to college.
Nah, man. This is it.
Why not?
This is it.
Why not?
He can. He can get paid too.
Do what?
Spend that NIL money.
Yeah, he can get paid. He's got more leverage to go back to college than anybody's ever had.
I was just going to say, this ain't the 1990s, man. Now with the NIL money, he's making millions now. Like, he could stay in college.
He's got like $3 million.
The point is, listen, do you have $2-3 million? He's a college player. I'm saying, think about 5-10 years ago. Well, okay, I'm being a little facetious. Think about 15 years ago. Think about a guy like Ron Dane, right? That dude, literally, there's stories about him having to sell his cleats and stuff because he couldn't afford to eat on campus. Like, I'm saying the game has changed. Players don't have to leave when they're juniors now, because they can't afford to live on campus anymore. The point is, he absolutely has leverage. 100% has leverage.
Go back to college and risk an injury. Go ahead and risk it. Risk it all because you don't want to play for a certain team. You don't get the pick. This is I like the comparison to Eli Manning, how he screwed the Colts.
Yeah, your boy who came there had
Giants,
leverage.
but that's not going to work. That's not going to fly anymore. Go back to college. See how it
Why?
works.
Because he's not white?
No, because you don't have that kind of leverage, dude.
Why doesn't
you already
he?
played that game?
Why does he's a college quarterback? Eli had leverage. He does
you already
too.
played that card by going back to college last year.
No, but he's got another year to go back, and you get an insurance policy to where if you did get hurt,
he's
you
on
could
a
still
6-4 team.
Okay,
it's not his fault. He was on a 6-4 team. They didn't play defense.
I didn't say it was his fault, Mike. I'm saying, dude, you go back to college, you're risking it all for what? Because you don't want to play for the Commanders or the Bears. Those are the teams. They only get worse. If you're the number one pick, you're going to the worst team in the league. That's every year.
Barry,
what are we
why
talking
would
about?
you want to go to a team with a lame duck coach when you know you're going to have a bad season and they're going to fire him, and now you got to start over with a new coach?
Because his boy Kingsbury's there. His boy Kingsbury's there.
Hold on.
That's his boy.
No. We're talking Chicago. We're talking
Yeah,
Chicago.
Chicago was the first pick first.
We're talking Chicago. Okay. If Chicago keeps the pick, why would you want to go play for a team with a lame duck coach? Okay. When they're gonna fire him because you're gonna have a bad season, okay, because he's a lame duck coach. And honestly, the team ain't that good. So now they're gonna fire him. They're bringing in another coach who actually didn't draft you, and now that coach is going to be like, well, I don't know how good he is. We've seen this story before.
Right. We're not married to him.
I honestly feel like the Bears, I don't think they're as bad as you think. I think the Sweat trade, I think the defense has got fits. I think the second half of the year for the Bears is much better than the first half. I don't think they're a really good team, but I don't think they're as bad as they looked early in the season. I honestly think Eberflus, I don't know what he did to keep his job, to your point, Chandler. I don't know what he did.
You can make an argument.
He made them lame from when they started the season is awful. He made them to kind of okay lame. Like, I don't know, like he didn't do anything great, but I feel like he earned his way to another season. I don't know if he's a lame duck coach, but I don't think
he contract after the season. He doesn't have a contract.
Anybody who doesn't get a contract extension going into the last year,
but this would have been the year to fire him. This would have been the year to fire him.
And the other thing is,
because you got that number one pick, you can build your team with a new coach, a new quarterback, and
but the GM's making that pick, not the coach.
Matt Nagy,
but
John Fox.
Yep.
He drafted a quarterback high in the last year of his contract. Matt Nagy drafted a quarterback high in the last year of his contract. Okay. Oh, and by the way, with the Commanders, all of this slander about Ben Johnson is coming from them. That is still a dysfunctional organization. So again, why would you want to go to that organization when they can't even have enough professionalism to not slander somebody because he didn't want to work for them?
Whoa. Wait a minute. Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year.
No.
He won Coach of the Year.
Over DeMarco
Yeah, he won Coach of the Year.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, I said on the show that I thought Stefanski was a slam dunk, but I thought the last 2 months showed why DeMarco Ryan should be the coach of the Wow.
I personally would have put Dan Campbell above I would have had Stefanski in my top 3.
I'm sorry. DeMeco Ryan took over a team that won how many games a year before?
Like 2, 3.
I think 2.
2 or 1, 2.
And they won a playoff game, I believe.
Yep.
And with a rookie
and they won a playoff game.
Thanks. And a rookie quarterback.
And they beat him. They beat the Stefanski in the playoffs.
Oh, by the
Well,
way,
he didn't have a quarterback.
Everybody said because he came from Ohio State was going to be trash. Remember?
He had an octogenarian.
Like I don't know how that happens. Thank you for putting that on the ticker series because I'm like what? I'm like what?
Yeah.
But no, but to your point, I think the Commanders. I didn't get a chance to chime in on this. I think they dropped the ball. It's their they didn't have a fallback plan once they didn't get Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, I think he didn't want to go there. I think they tried to put the pieces in place to get him there. They got the guys from Detroit as the GM or what have you, and they tried to get Ben Johnson. He balked at it because I still think there's dysfunction in that whole organization. Even though Magic Johnson and his group came in, even Magic Johnson was questioning what was going on at certain points. I just don't think that he wanted to go there. They didn't have a fallback plan. I think Dan Quinn was a solid defensive coordinator. I wouldn't say a great defensive coordinator because of the points you guys brought up. The fact that they did blow a big lead in the Super Bowl. They didn't scheme. Listen, you couldn't figure out how to get your best defensive player involved in a playoff game through 4 quarters. That's inexcusable. So I don't want to hear that he's a great defensive coordinator. I think he's a solid defensive coordinator. I think they take advantage of situations. Like you look at that Giants game, getting them in long distance and then having to throw, and then you're able to send the dogs, send the pass rushers, and then you're able to, jump routes because they can't get pressure. Any defensive coordinator can do that. You know what I'm saying? So I'd never seen him out scheme. You got out schemed by Matt LaFleur. I mean, no offense to Matt LaFleur, but Matt LaFleur couldn't figure it out with Aaron Rodgers, and you got out schemed by him. So I don't like that hire. I'm not feeling the Cliff Kingsbury hire as an offensive coordinator. I understand he has a relationship with Caleb Williams. I understand he was an advisor for the Trojans this past year. I don't get it. I just don't get it. The Commanders had a chance to turn the page completely on a weak coach in Rivera, on a weak owner in Snyder, and they dropped the ball.
They fumbled the other
issue is what's to say that you hire Cliff Kingsbury because he has a relationship with Caleb Williams. Who's to say that he's going to be there at 2?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Who's going to say
get stuck with Nay?
And here's one other thing I want to touch on that Chandler mentioned. You were talking about, Chicago and how they're a good team. Like, no disrespect, they were 7-10. They weren't bad. They play in the same division as a Packers team that's only getting better, a Detroit team that's only getting better, and a Minnesota team that honestly played about as bad as you could in the second half and still managed to win 7 games. So, I mean, if we were to fast forward to next year and you told me the Bears finished last in this division again, I wouldn't be shocked. Mm-hmm. So
I don't think anybody would be shocked.
I think there's a very, very good likelihood that when we're having this conversation next season, the Bears are in that carousel looking for a head coach. So I think a lot of what Chandler's saying does make sense, right? Mm-hmm. You pick a coach, nobody wants to go to the team the year before the coach comes in because that's not your guy. You got it. I mean, it does matter because if I'm going to put my coaching reputation on the line, I want my guy.
And that's what the Giants are struggling with because Daniel Jones isn't Daboll's guy. You know what I mean? That's exactly.
And you paid him $40 million, and guess what? Daboll's like, hey, I'll take Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, I mean,
Cowboys can't get a defensive coordinator because Mike McCarthy's on the last year of his contract. They can't get a defense coordinator.
Right. Exactly.
So they're talking to Rex Ryan. Exactly, Chandler. They're talking to Rex Ryan, which wouldn't be a bad hire, huh?
They just hired the Cowboys just hired Mike Zimmer as their new
my God.
That's not terrible, but yeah, that just shows you that just shows you that they couldn't get the guy. I would have brought in Rex Ryan. I would have brought in Rex Ryan.
Brian, the thing you said about Bieniemy has been said about Mike Zimmer, that he's bland, he's only X's and O's, and so it's okay for Mike Zimmer to be laser focused on doing his job as a coordinator, but it's not for Eric. See, this is the nonsense.
I think the difference.
I think it's different though with Bieniemy. I'm sorry, Brian. I think with Bieniemy, it's okay to be an offensive coordinator. it's not a bad thing to be an offensive coordinator. Not everybody could be a head coach. Not everybody's cut out to be a head coach.
True,
you know what I mean? I think it takes, you have to deal with you got to deal with personalities. You got to deal with both sides of the room. You got to deal with the media. You got to deal with everybody. Some people don't want to do that. They just want to do X's and O's. Like, look at Kansas City. They were leading the league in offensive points last year, almost 30 a game. They went to they lost 8 points a game. That's a first of it. It's a little bit of a product of the receiving core. Yeah, I'll give you that. But they had the same running back, the same core, the coach, the same quarterback, the same running back, the same tight end, pretty much the same receivers, the same offensive line, and you're scoring 8 points less a game. That's Eric Bieniemy. So
I think here's the problem, man. And I'm going to say this again, and nobody's going to want to hear it, but it's the truth. When you hire your head coach is the most important hire you're going to make for your organization. And what you're seeing is, who does Mike McCarthy hire? He's going to hire all the dinosaurs that are in his network. Let me hire Dan Quinn. Let me hire Zimmer. Let me hire Rex Ryan. Hey, is Buddy Ryan available? Like, he's going to hire all the old guys. Yeah. He's going to hire all the old guys. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is, as you guys know, the NFL is very innovative. You don't have 6'4", 320-pound defensive linemen that are running 5'2", 5'3" anymore. So I feel like some of the problem is when you hire these guys is, are they slightly out of touch, especially when they're guys that haven't been in the role, right? Haven't been a DC for a couple years. That's my concern.
Rex Ryan had Snacks Harrison dropping into coverage and had D linemen and D tackles dropping into coverage before anybody else was even thinking about doing some of the stuff, these exotic defenses where they're showing blitz and then dropping everybody back. Where you got the linebackers rushing and you got the defensive line. Rex Ryan was doing that 10 years ago. So don't tell me Rex Ryan isn't innovative.
I didn't say Rex Ryan wasn't.
Mike Zimmer is bland and boring, and he has never made a defense better.
You know what he is, Chandler? He's safe.
He's safe. He's safe.
He's the safe pick.
He is the safe pick.
For 1 year, he's the safe pick.
And you know what?
If you think McCarthy's coming back after this season, you're out of your damn mind.
And I will tell you this: for 1 year, like you boys said, for 1 year, Dallas defense will be better next year than they were this year. Mark it down. For 1 year, they will be better next year than they were this year.
How much better?
Iced tea. We'll put
Arizona iced tea. Okay.
Well, how much better can they be? They were the best defense in the league.
No. I mean, what I'm saying is Zimmer is not going to allow them to give up 150 yards on the ground. He don't roll like that. He'll bring in guys that can.
That's personnel, Mike. You know what I mean, Brian? I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. They are not going to allow Zimmer is not going to allow people to just run all over the yard on him. So they need to be better.
They're just throwing them because their cornerbacks can't cover anybody. So, you know what I'm saying? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Zimmer can't coach secondary. Okay, so you stop the run, but then you got Bland giving up, touchdowns. You got Diggs giving up touchdowns. You got Gilmore getting cooked on dig routes and whatever the case may be. This Zimmer thing is interesting. I'm shocked as all get out that they made this move, but I need to move because we got a Super Bowl to talk about, and I got a 49er fan in the building. So, Brian, I'm going to start with you, sir. The 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs kick off in a couple days in Sin City, Las Vegas. Talk to me, man. How do you feel? Obviously, you're excited. Your birthday's tomorrow, so you're praying to the football gods that the 49ers tied the great Pittsburgh Steelers with 6. Talk to me, man. How you feel?
Well, I need to take this moment first and say, Mike, if you're listening, what I said was I'd have 2 blind guys and Sirius would still be on the bench. So you missed the back part of that conversation that I was talking about on the court. It was a dig at Sirius, not necessarily that a blind guy can't be a good athlete, because I am very much aware that, whether you're blind or you're amputee or you're handicapped, there is incredible athletes everywhere. I'll be honest with you, I'm actually a little nervous. And I don't normally get nervous, but I'm going to tell you why I'm nervous. Because My dad told me a long time ago when I was a little boy, a little lad, if you will, always be afraid of the quietest guy in the room, right? The guy that talks the least is the guy that's going to do the most. And if you've been listening this week to the interviews and everything, all the Kansas City Chiefs have done is be complimentary. Oh, man, you know what? We're just lucky to be here with this team. The Niners are the best team we've ever seen. Brock Purdy's great. This and that. Just building them up, which kind of makes me feel like they think they got in the bag. So I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little nervous. It's good. Listen, we talk about this all the time, but I always use the Dan Marino effect, right? Year 2, Dan Marino makes it to the Super Bowl, and he's like, man, didn't get it done, but I'm better prepared for the next time I get back there. And guess what? Never got back. Nothing is guaranteed in life, right? Whether that be us waking up tomorrow or whether that be our favorite team ever making it back to a championship. So I feel blessed that 5 years later we have an opportunity to avenge a loss in the Super Bowl to the team that beat us, that we were up 20-10 on in the fourth quarter. Am I nervous? Yeah, because I feel like what the Niners do well is also a strength of Kansas City. If you look at the way these teams match up, I think Snead matches up extremely well on Ayuk. Ayuk led the league this year in receiving yards, 10-plus air yards down the field. Snead gave up the least amount of receiving yards, 10-plus yards down the field. Debo, big, physical, likes to bully people. McDuffie is actually kind of a bulldog. He's kind of a physical throwback, as the number 2 corner. So it can create some problems. And Patrick Mahomes has already proven, you know what? You're not going to let us throw deep. You know what? Death by 1,000 cuts. We're perfectly fine. Screen, halfback pass, doing 18 play drives down the field because they're one of the few teams that can get away with that and actually continually, make those checkdowns and make those plays work. And then if you do creep forward, a guy like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, gets behind your defense once or twice a game and we'll catch a big pass. For me, and I know I say this a lot, but for me, this really comes down to one thing and one thing only. It's going to come down to the trenches on both sides of the ball. The Niners front 4 needs to be able to generate pressure without blitzing. They need to be able to drop those 8 guys into coverage, and they need to get pressure on Mahomes with 4 guys, and they should be able to. Taylor and Donovan Smith, their tackles, they've been hit with a lot of holding calls this year. They haven't graded out well. They've given up quite a few sacks. But the inside of that Kansas City defense is very stout. I don't know if Tooney's going to play, but they are very stout. So this is a game that, Chase, you want to get paid. Chase Young, you want to get paid. Nick Bosa, you just got paid. These guys need to have a day for that Niners defense to potentially have a chance and play well and be able to shut things down. And they have to shut down the run. Listen, the last 2 weeks, you look against the Detroit Lions, specifically in the first half, and then against Green Bay, the Niners are averaging right now in the playoffs, giving up 155 yards a game on the ground, which is insane when you compare what the stats were during the regular season. They're going to have to get that under control because you give a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes the option of play action, including everything else that he has at his disposal and in his arsenal. It's going to be rough. I do think the Niners linebackers, I'm not saying they're going to shut him down because I think he's good enough to where he'll still get his. But I think Travis Kelce, Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, I think that they'll do a decent job on him. But I think it's really going to come down to how does the 49ers offensive line hold up against that defensive line, especially in the middle, against, Chris Jones and I forget the other cat's name, but the other D tackle, because you get a ton of pressure. Brock Purdy is not a very large stature guy. He needs room to operate. So for me, boys, that's what it's going to come down to. Offensive and defensive line. The team that wins those two battles, that wins on the offensive and the defensive line, is going to win this game. That's truly how I feel, and I'm hoping that that's San Francisco. But if for San Francisco to win, I think they need to be able to run the ball effectively, and for the Chiefs to win, they can win a lot of different ways, but really what it comes down to is just protecting Patrick Mahomes for me.
Yeah, honestly, for me, gentlemen, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I can very easily say this game is going to be won and lost in the trenches. But I think it's going to come down to a couple of things. First and foremost, does Kyle Shanahan learn from his mistakes? This is going to be the third Super Bowl that we've seen him in, and each time he's had a significant lead and managed to lose it. So does Kyle Shanahan learn from his mistakes? Second of all, it's not the first read, it's the secondary reads for both quarterbacks. I do believe that both defenses are going to be good enough to take away the initial reads for Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy, but are the secondary guys going to be able to break free and make up plays? I'm talking about Rice. I'm talking about maybe an IU, maybe a tight end, or somebody else is going to be able to break free and do some things. And obviously, winning and losing the turnover battle, that goes without saying. So I'm gonna leave that alone. But I think the third thing is going to really come down to is whose identity gets established early. I think the Kansas City Chiefs have morphed themselves into a whatever the heck you want me to do, I can do it. Like, if you need Patrick Mahomes to drop back and sling the ball over the yard, he's showing he can do that. If it's a ground and pound with Pacheco, he can do that. I think the San Francisco 49ers arguably got the best running back in football right now. Is Christian McCaffrey going to be more of a runner between the tackles, or does he get outside of the edges and beat you in the check down game and the yards after catch game? Brock Purdy's game is all about timing and precision. And we have seen, again, the first two games of this postseason that he's played, the first halves were not good at any one of those games, not a one. So does the moment get too big for Brock Purdy and this 49ers team? This is an annual trip for the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been there, done that, got the T-shirts, throw them away, come back and get the second one. So I don't want to say this is nothing to them, but I do trust and believe in what NBA players call the championship DNA and that championship medal. And this Chiefs team has been there, done that. So is the moment too big for the 49ers? We will see. But I think whomever establishes their rhythm or their brand of football the fastest will have a tremendous leg up in this ball game. I'm not going to pick it yet. I'm going to do that on Facebook, probably, or on our social media platform later on in the week. But I think this is going to be a great game. I do think it's going to be a one-score game. I do believe that it could come down to a situation where whomever has the ball last. It's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to kicking back and watching it. Villain, I'll come to you, sir. Kansas City Chiefs 49ers round 2. Talk to me, man.
Yeah, I mean, the line is really close, right? It's the Niners, I think they're 1.5 right now. And the over-under is at 47. So I think, the points are going to be low, I suspect. I think both defenses are really good. I think they'll keep this game tight. But I think it's going to be who can make the other defense uncomfortable, right? And what defense can make the quarterback uncomfortable. I really feel like you cannot play zone against Patrick Mahomes. He will carve you up. But you can play zone because you got a front four that can get after it. And Nick Bosa, and especially that guy from Ohio State, Chase Young, who has done nothing, has to do something. He has to be somebody. He has to be that guy that we all thought he was coming out of college. And if they can get after it with 4 guys and not have to bring a lot of pressure, then I think the Chiefs will be in a little bit of trouble. I think the receiving core is in trouble because it looks like Tony's going to play. So that's not good for them. If he wasn't going to play, then that receiving core in Kansas City would be in a hell of a lot better shape. That's my personal Giants bias. I got a little hate for Tony, but shining off here. But listen, Pacheco runs like a maniac. But I don't know if he's going to be able to really get going against that 49er defense. But if he can, then that helps a tremendous amount, right? I think on the 49ers side, they got the weapons. Offensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey just won that. So, I think they can do a lot of good things, but they're going up against a really good defense, a really underrated secondary, I think, young but talented secondary in Kansas City. So it's going to be interesting to see how Spags kind of, game plans for that 49ers offense. I think whoever controls the line of scrimmage, like Brian says, is really going to tell who wins this game. I think Kyle Shanahan, I don't think this is a make or break game, but I feel like this is a game he needs to win because he's had bites at the apple. He's had those chances. He's had good teams. Last year, I thought was probably one of his better shots. They didn't have a quarterback to stand with in Philadelphia. But if he's as good as everybody says he is, he's got to start winning. If we hold Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, all these guys to that standard, we got to hold this guy to that standard because we think he's a pretty darn good coach too. Andy Reid's going for legacy, trying to go down as one of the great coaches of all time. I'm not ready to put Mahomes in that category right now. You got some work to do to catch Joe Montana. Let's have a little respect for these guys that have done it, right? I think he's on par with Peyton Manning. I don't think he has the numbers. He doesn't have a career yet, but I think he can get on par with those guys like Peyton Manning, John Elway's of the world with another Super Bowl win. But I'm nowhere near. Everybody wants to say that he's the GOAT. Like, come on, man, prisoners in the moment. Give me a break. But this is a legacy game for a lot of guys, right? This is the defining game for a lot of guys. Shanahan, Reid, Mahomes. Brock Purdy, he's not going to be an elite quarterback, but if he gets a win, you got to start putting some respect on his name. You know what I mean? Like a lot of guys can say they won a Super Bowl. So, I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup. I'm really excited for it. My daughter's excited for it. She wants to watch Patrick Mahomes. It's sad. She's 7 years old. She doesn't understand that, it's daddy doesn't want to see that kind of stuff. Stop liking boys. You know what I mean? Go back to play with your dolls. Stop liking boys.
Daddy, why don't we root for winners?
No, it's like, but it's like Patrick Mahomes. Like, every time I see a State Farm commercial or a Subway commercial, Daddy, look, it's Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes. I'm like, oh my God, Avery, stop it.
That's funny. That's funny. Chandler, talk to me, man. This 2023 season, Super Bowl, Chiefs versus 49ers, man. How do you feel?
Well, first, I'm really upset that Brian hasn't asked for my address for that Chipotle order he's supposed to be sending me. But
I know Uber Eats, dude. That's all you got to do is Uber Eats and send it.
But Chase Young is Albert Hainsworth, but he was too stupid to get the bag before he showed us how lazy he was. Chase Young had the opportunity to get Khalil Mack money, and he'll be lucky if he gets Khalil Jones money. If you don't know who Khalil Jones is, that's the dude that's gonna be delivering my Chipotle later. Okay. The Niners defense, and Steve Wilkes is going to get the blame, but this is about the fact that they've had too many guys not show up in these games. They're deep. If they allow what they allowed against Detroit and what they allowed against Green Bay, they're gonna get run out. They're gonna get run out the stadium. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who 99 is, but that one play where they showed 99 and Chase Young. And dude, you ran hard enough to look like you was running hard, but you wasn't really trying to tackle him. Come on, man. They got to be better. And as far as Shanahan goes, I think John Lynch gets fired if they don't win because Kyle Shanahan, much like his father, has perfected the art of passing the blame to everyone but himself. Okay, when they lost those games, when everybody was talking about how Brock Purdy really wasn't the answer, suddenly it was the defense. It wasn't Kyle Shanahan's play calling. It was Steve Wilks called a zero blitz. Dude, you had a whole other half of a game. But that one play cost you the game. And Steve Wilks had to go up there and fall on the sword. Okay? Kyle Shanahan, and I go back to a year and a half ago when Kyle Shanahan let it be known that he was the one who wanted to trade up Trey Lance. That was all John Lynch. Wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. What? Trade who? I mean, I wasn't even in the building when they did that. Man, I was at home sleep. Kyle Shanahan has to win this game. But if they lose, I believe John Lynch is the one who gets fired. And it should be on Kyle Shanahan because, again, I keep asking the question, tell me the last big game Kyle Shanahan coached in, offense coordinator, head coach that he won.
Last week.
I mean, the last game counts.
The last game don't count. The last game don't count because let's be honest, if Dan Campbell kicks the field goal, that game probably turns out very differently. All right? That game probably turns out very differently, but we'll never know. So I'm not going to give him credit for the other coach making a mistake. I'm not going to give him credit for that. I'm not going to give him credit for Jordan Love deciding in that for the basically one of the few times all season that he wanted to play hero ball.
So,
I'm not giving Kyle Shanahan credit for that. I'm not giving him credit for that. What I'm going to look at is how his offense is played in these games, how his defense is played. I don't want to hear about Steve Wilks. You the damn head coach. You the head coach, and you the one who keep running talking about defense. Where's your defense, Kyle Shanahan? Where's your defense, Kyle Shanahan? Why is Chase Young even on the field, Kyle Shanahan? Hey, Kyle Shanahan. See, that's where I'm going with this. I'm looking at Kyle Shanahan. But Steve Wilks is going to take blame, and Chase Young is going to take blame, and John Lynch is going to everybody going to take blame except Kyle Shanahan. But at the end of the day, the buck is supposed to stop with the head coach. Last I heard. You know, but for me,
and just to,
go ahead, Brian.
I just wanted to quickly, just because he brought up a good point, not to cut you off, Chandler, I'm sorry, but if you look at the last game, and you guys know I'm a huge Niner fan, but I'm also a realist. I'd say 75% at least of the wow or the eye-popping plays on offense, they were total ad-lib plays by Brock Purdy. It wasn't scripted.
They were off script.
Right.
Yeah.
Meaning it wasn't like Shanahan drew up an amazing play. It was like Brock Purdy evaded the pressure, rolled out to the left while being chased, threw back to the right, and oh my God, completed it. And that's nice once in a while, but you can't win consistently like that. Go ahead, Chandler.
Right. And that's why I'm looking at Kyle Shanahan. Andy Reid to me was a Hall of Fame coach, a first ballot Hall of Fame coach before he ever won a Super Bowl. Okay, because I look at those Philadelphia teams that he took to how many championship games? And yes, he didn't win the big one, but there's a whole lot of great coaches in the Hall of Fame who didn't. Bud Grant. I just lost his name. Buffalo Bills head coach Marv Levy.
Marv Levy
was the great coach. You gonna tell me Marv Levy was the great coach? Of course he was. Sometimes, guess what? Everybody doesn't get to win the big one. That don't mean you're not great at what you do. Okay?
Right.
So I'm not worried about Andy Reid's legacy. Now, if you want to start talking about him and Bill Belichick, listen, I don't really care about that nonsense. I'm not a Belichick fan. After he wrote on a napkin, I quit as HC of the NYJ, so screw Bill Belichick. Okay? He can take all them Super Bowl rings and y'all know where he could put them. Okay? He ain't never going to be the greatest coach of all time to me because he wrote on a napkin, I quit as HC of the NYJ.
I'm writing on anything I can get my hands on. The quote from the Jets. Are you kidding me?
Yes, I'm still bitter.
I get the toilet tissue. I get anything I can get on. Get me out of here. As soon as he walked in the building, like, nope. Nope.
Hey,
Nope.
hey, I will tell you this though. One thing that will be interesting, just kind of inside the X's and O's, guys. The Kansas City Chiefs are able to deploy some interesting packages. One thing I'm going to be interested in is when the Niners are on offense and they run 21 personnel, meaning 2 running backs and 1 tight end. We all saw, even in last game, he had multiple catches. Juszczyk is an incredible weapon, right? And so is Christian McCaffrey. There is a very good chance in 21 personnel, which is normally a running formation, you could absolutely see them go 5 wide.
Yeah.
How are the Kansas City Chiefs going to react to that? Watch that early and often, because I promise you'll see that formation, and that's just one other hidden element to it. And the other thing is, when the Kansas City Chiefs run bunch, how do the 49ers react to that? Because the one lingering Achilles heel for the Niners is their third quarter. Ambry Thomas is horrific. Not bad, not kind of bad, horrific. And when you put that kid in any kind of space, like, he's okay on the perimeter because they can't juke outward, if you will. But when they run that bunch, all Niners Nation is going to be holding their breath.
Can somebody please tell me that that's Dr. Peppers y'all talking about for the Hall of Fame and not Julius Peppers? Tell me it's Dr.
Julius
Peppers.
Julius Peppers.
That is Julius Peppers.
Julius Peppers is not a Hall of Famer.
Antonio Gates did not make it. Somebody tell me how
Wow.
many of the top 5 tight ends of all time didn't make the freaking Hall of Fame.
But Julius Peppers,
Explain
Reggie
that to
Wayne.
who in every big game he ever played and disappeared like the Thin Man.
Hey, what about Pat Willis?
Unbelievable.
Pat Willis is a good linebacker, but you're telling me out of all those guys that Antonio Gates doesn't deserve it over any of them?
No. I'm not saying that.
No. I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just saying that hypothetically in general. I'm not saying you saying that. I'm saying, how the hell is Antonio Gates not in the Hall of Fame right now?
Dude, this is some
that guy's
nonsense,
top 5 tight end of all time. Easy.
This is some nonsense.
That's crap.
There's been some craziness going on tonight as far as the awards and Hall of Fame. I mean, Dylan and I were just talking.
Serious.
Yeah, you know what?
I mean,
hey, so just so Devin Hester, which by the way I agree with, because change the game and on special teams.
Yep.
Dwight Freeney, Andre Johnson, Julius Peppers, Patrick Willis. So
I'll give you Willis. I'll give you.
I'm shocked because I agree with you. As much as I love Willis, he's probably my favorite 49er of all time. I think Gates is probably the most deserving of all those guys I just named.
Yes. Absolutely.
Total,
and it's like
game changer.
Not even close.
It's like how long does Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt have to wait to get into the Hall of Fame?
Well,
like,
how long did Ken Stabler have to wait? They waited until Ken Stabler was dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me that these two guys got to wait to get on the senior ballot like McMichael did. Like,
McMichael just got in this year. Steve McMichael just got in this year.
Years ago.
Yeah, McMichael
years ago.
Unbelievable. I'm sure. Unbelievable.
So, hey, I'm not gonna because you guys know, believe it or not, and I know this is probably sacrilegious, especially with us doing the show. I don't have any forms of social media. I don't believe in it. I think there's a lot of bogus propaganda that people put out there that just, not good, and it kind of hurts the heart. So with that being said, I'm going to go with the Niners to avenge their loss, and I'm going to go 27-20. The Niners take care of business.
Surprise.
Listen, I got to be consistent. I've bet on the Niners. Listen, I bet on the Niners all playoffs, and so far I'm undefeated. So I'm really hoping.
So are the Giants.
That was for you, Chandler. I'm really hoping that Chandler tells you to take Kansas City in the points. Otherwise, I'm screwed.
Yes, take Kansas City in the points.
All right, we're winning now, baby. Woo!
Hey, every time I said take the points, people would have won money if they had listened to me. Every single time.
My man, I still haven't gotten over that whole 42-6 Raven Chief thing that he thought. But we'll talk about that another day. We'll talk about that another day.
But I didn't. But listen, if they had taken the points, they still would have won money.
Just throw it on money.
Hey,
Anyway.
like Chandler said the next week, I guess people just don't like money. People don't like money around here.
With that being said, gentlemen, we have reached the tail end of the show. I want to thank you all so much for coming and kicking it with us. Brian, breaking news, man. Go eat your dinner, man. But give us a plug and a close out as we shut it down, my guy.
Hey, man, listen, I just wanted to humbly thank you guys for giving me an opportunity to be on your podcast here. And I apologize, especially where this is the first show, The Executive View. But I think it's a great platform. I think it's awesome that we all have an opportunity to kind of share thoughts. We don't always agree, just like brothers wouldn't. But at the same time, at the end of the day, we're all here to support one another. We're all going through different things, but the one thing that unifies us all is sports, and it's therapeutic for all of us. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a blessed weekend, and I look forward to the recap show hopefully next week. Peace. Love you guys.
Love you too, man. Appreciate you. Man, Chandler, man, it's been fun kicking it with you, man. Give us a plug and a close out to shut it down, my guy.
Well, I talked about you guys a lot in group and my meetings this past week. And one of the things that kept getting told to me was sometimes it ain't about me. Sometimes you just have to let things work out how they work out. It ain't always about me. I find that hard to believe because it's always about me, even when it's not about me. But sometimes it ain't about me. And I'm saying that to say, again, how I am with veterans. There's this program that the PGA runs called PGA Hope for veterans. You can get 6 weeks of free instruction. They'll pay for everything. So if you know any veterans, try to look it up, find it out, because they just opened up their registration and stuff for different events in different places. Now I'm looking at Western New York because that's where I am, but it's all over the country. And it's something to do because for a lot of us, when we have no purpose once we get out and everything sucks and everything's terrible, and somebody makes a suggestion and say, well, we want to try this, and we're, nah, that shit gonna suck. It might not suck. And if it does suck, you're right. So either way, you win. Either way, you win. Right. But yeah, so just try it. If you know any veterans, I don't know anything about golf. I'm not even a fan of golf. I'm gonna try it. Why not? What else I got better to do? So just say yes to life. 988 option 1. It's not about 22 veterans commit suicide a day, but that phone number is not just about when you're at your lowest. Sometimes you might just need to hear a friendly voice. Sometimes you just may need somebody to talk to about whatever. But appreciate this, guys, man. I had a lot of fun tonight. Thanks.
All right, Chandler, man. Appreciate you, dog, man. Thanks for coming by and kicking it with us, man. Again, I married a veteran, so I take what he says to heart, and believe me, it works, dog. It works, man. There are things that veterans go through, that my wife goes through, that I can't talk to her about, but there's somebody that she picks up the phone and she talks to that can help her through, even though me as a spouse can't. So shout out to Chandler and those other veterans that have served and that have found a way to clean the hope and to make life normal after service, man. That's dope, man. With that being said, Villain, you know what to do, man. Give us a plug and a close out and shut it down, my guy.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Brian, to Mike. I know he was having some difficulties, but always good to hear his voice. Shout out to Chandler, having him on the show. This is the first of many. We've kind of gone full circle on this. Had a lot of discussions back and forth. Shout out to the homie TP and the boys at Sports City. We're not leaving them. We're not abandoning them. We just doing our thing here. We always going to be chefs. We always got our apron in there, just like in the closet. Whenever you need a chef, we're there to cook. But we on to the next thing, and we're gonna have fun with this, and we're gonna grow it. And we got a lot of surprises, I think, coming up in the next year. So stay tuned to us. We're gonna do some big things, and we always working with the chefs. So shout out to him. But yeah, man, I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Sherris, having me here. We're going to do this together. We're going to build. We're going to multiply. All right? So let's.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Villain, man. It's your boy, Sirius, repping that 412 and the 703, man. I totally 100% echo everything Villain said. When I got into this sports talk, blog talk podcast thing. I was a Sports City Chef, and I will forever be a Sports City Chef. Shout out to TP and everybody affiliated with that particular network. Again, this is an extension of that. We are not breaking away or anything like that, but we are pressing forward, and we're gonna break off and do our own little thing. And should the timing get right, we're gonna come back together and press on and take over this particular space and this particular platform. Again, welcome to the Executive View, man. It's gonna be a fun show. It's gonna be a fun time. But with that being said, man, catch you guys on the next one. Peace and love.